What are some of the obstacles that you have encountered or challenges you've encountered?
That is a long conversation,
Oh.
but the primary obstacle comes from my own beliefs about money. Primarily, that I have to go and sort of be very fearful about how I spend anything. I like investing in education, investing in like education that isn't put up for by the government or anything like that. It's still very scary to many people. I've also found that if like being able to socialize with people about opportunities that are entrepreneurial and things of the like among people who are very not entrepreneurial also can be very challenging, and having to convince people that this is a very safe and very like 27-year-long trusted model to help people, thousands of people become millionaires.
Have you been doing some networking in the city, or like what are some resources that you found that have helped you with your project?
I have been basically just jumping job to job, as I've been changing networks very frequently. So I've been going from job to job. This helps me to create new networks, talk to new people. But also I have been, reaching out to old Columbia graduates, because they, as people who went to Ivy League universities, may have stronger networks than maybe I do. And so I definitely talk to them, introduce them to what I am doing, and so some get involved, but none of them quite with the investment that I have, because I fully understand the power of the system.
And what are some of these jobs that you've been doing?
Oh boy, all of them have been pretty much minimum wage.
Yeah.
I've been a factory worker at a ramen shop. I speak Japanese, so it was something I thought I could use to improve my Japanese. I've been a helper at a supermarket, also very minimum wage. I was also a Taekwondo instructor, and I do this per diem now. And currently, I just got hired as a physical therapy aide. So all of these are just very low wage jobs, and because I know that I'm going to eventually get rid of them, like I'm eventually going to replace this income with a permanent passive residual income, I never give that much attention to them. That said, while the business is still being, the foundation is being built, it is very imperative that I work a job so that I can pay for the basic expenses, housing and stuff like that.
Is your dad, is he concerned, or what are the types of things that he has said to you? Because he's led a very different life that, and he must have chats with you about this, right? What does he say?
He is completely against the opinion of entrepreneurialism. He says it's important to have a job and to work for as long as possible in order to get a good Social Security check. We had a long conversation with me about this last week, actually.
And so you basically have like a minimum wage income right now. How would you say, we're living in New York City, which is one of the most expensive cities in the country. What would you say about that? Like,
if you are even mildly aware of your income versus the expenses of housing, transportation, phone and food, you can survive. If you are building a business on minimum wage income, it is also possible. It is very challenging, and so it becomes something that you have to become very financially intelligent about.
So you have to pay close attention.
Extremely. And I literally track every dollar that I spent. I have to write down in my book, like my little.
You sound like
sheet.
your dad now, who was kept track of everything.
I have no choice, unfortunately. That said, I am also willing to throw caution to the wind many times. It's honestly landed me in homelessness a few times. Yeah.
Tell me about that type of situation.
Well, let's start from when my mother gave that inheritance, actually.
Yeah.
It was a little over $100,000. I used this to secure my housing, but friends came into in the way. You know, some friends who may not have had my best interest at heart. I was naive. I helped them as much as I could by giving them financial loans that I probably knew I wouldn't be seeing again. Ultimately, because I had not developed the ability to create financial wealth, these funds were depleted very easily within like a year's amount of time, and then I started to, realize that I needed a job as well as this entrepreneurial activity, but the reality is that I still do have like a bit of a mindset that says that I don't know, I can't create wealth, I can't create money, because my mother has just always had the history of taking care of all of my expenses for me. So like I'm overcoming
tell me
this.
a little bit about blowing $100,000, and I don't mean it in a judgmental way.
Please.
$100,000 in a year. Tell me where that money went. You say a lot of it went to giving it away to friends. How do you think about those friends now in that situation?
I certainly harbor no ill will towards them. That said, I certainly can't, the ones who are not around anymore, I certainly could not bring myself to trust them as like anyone close ever again, in spite of what they said. I also realize that it is never about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep. And I don't mean just saving it in a bank or something like that. I mean about being financially intelligent. Like in the recent years, now that I've lost so much money and I've literally lived on the streets for months at a time now, and I've had to do odd jobs, running around New York City doing Postmates, getting $3 to $4 to $10 an hour, literally with no bike, running around the city delivering things to people. I've realized just how important it is to learn how to create far stronger means of wealth, and being able to make this something that's passive and not something that I have to actively chase after every single day.
What else did you spend the money on, though? I guess that's what I'm curious about. Were you had an apartment or?
Yes, actually, that's a good question. As I had this awakening, I now started believing full well in my dream: natural medicine, martial arts, music.
Yeah.
I spent it on a big martial arts dummy and everything like that. Weights in my house, music technologies, like the healthiest possible foods I could possibly have. Nothing touched my lips that wasn't completely organic or wasn't certified raw. All of this, I started educating myself on this. Only superfoods. My money went in, towards cupping therapies from physical therapists, towards acupuncture, towards anything that could promote my health, because I figured that was the #1 investment. While I did see improvements, unfortunately, I did not go high enough so that I could provide enough value to create wealth. But I basically I'm still fighting the mindset that is telling my body that, you can't really make any money. You don't know how to do that. There's still something in there, and that's honestly, I believe, what's creating a reality in which I'm not making large amounts of money.
So I'm kind of skipping around, but I want to get every part of your story in. Tell me about being homeless in New York City. Like, what were you sleeping? Did you have like a spot you slept at, or?
I always slept on the grasses, not unlike here. And of course, I would get run off by officers who would come around and inspect the grounds. I would find buildings that were mostly abandoned or places that were, heavily monitored, and I'd sleep there, and then eventually get kicked out of there. Then I would go and sleep in banks at certain times, and while I wasn't kicked out of there, they were certainly uncomfortable. Quite frankly, I would go and steal for food in my most desperate of times. I tried fasting for 7 days, like no food, no water and everything, just meditation. But I could only do that for so long, and then I would start, doing Postmates for some amounts of food, but since it was so paltry, like finding avocados or apples or anything like that, and just kind of mentally convincing myself they won't miss a few avocados and apples, and anything like that. So just for me to literally survive. So basically doing the very best I could. But a few friends came and saw my plight, and the real friends, the ones that I've lent the money to, but they came and they did everything they could to get me back to a basic standard.
That's good.
Yeah.
So what is your living situation now?
Basically, paying for rent in Ridgewood, it's about $1,000 a month, $250 a week. But I was also recently laid off from that Taekwondo job that was paying for it. And now it's become very tenuous. In fact, if I don't have about $750 tomorrow, I will definitely have to move out again.
Oh,
So I'm going. Basically I'm looking around for any odd job that I can do to get money so that I can go and basically pay for the rent.
Do you think there will ever come a time when you're like, okay, I've done this entrepreneurial thing and I'm suffering because I'm living on the street or whatever, I don't have enough money, that you're gonna be like, okay, I'm just gonna give up? Do you think
Never.
that'll ever happen?
Never. I've seen especially the vehicle that I'm using, I've seen what it can do. It makes 100% sense. The problem is ultimately me. I have a lot of things to overcome, but the minute that I do overcome them, I will be more abundant than most people ever dream of, and I'll teach them how to do the exact same thing. But no, I have definitely let that thought cross my mind many times. But the ultimate answer every single time is no, I'm never going to stop. This is what entrepreneurs do.
Okay, one question I have in my mind that I'm a little hesitant to ask you, but I'm going to go there, okay?
Please.
If I were to have seen you on the street when you were at the time of you were homeless, I think a million stereotypes and honestly discriminatory thoughts would have gone through my head about seeing a young black guy homeless, okay? But talking to you, you're Ivy League educated, you speak Japanese, you come from a nice family, it sounds like, on Long Island. So I guess just can you comment on that? Like, how do people perceive you, or what do you think about what I'm saying? Or, I don't even, just what's your comment on that?
No, that's actually a fair assumption to make. I believe it or not, while I was kicked out of a lot of those places, a few stores actually caught me when I was stealing food and let me go. Because primarily they would say, like, you do not look like some sort of a criminal, you do not look like some sort of a bad person. You look like somebody who's down on your luck. You're a good person. I can see it. I never felt much of that discrimination because I don't know. Maybe my aura is better than what the typical homeless person on the street is. Maybe I'm more upright. Maybe I'm more well-spoken. Whatever it may be. I was thankful to not have received that sort of stereotype because I've seen how many of those homeless people have been treated. I am not going to lie and say that I have not been harbored mindsets exactly like what you have just described. But this experience has humbled me, and I've actually been a lot more likely to share what I gain with the homeless or help them in whatever way I can. So I'm afraid I haven't suffered very much discrimination, and I'm very grateful for that.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to say or about your economic situation or how you see your future?
The only thing I'd like to do is just give the advice that I would give to anyone at this point. I certainly am not a paragon of wealth as I am now, but I have a increasingly clear vision of exactly what I'm going to become. And I say that the number one thing that anybody, especially living in New York City, could do, become financially literate. Read, and practice. Well, like the things that wealthy people do, what entrepreneurs do, and expect to fall flat on your face, because my personal belief is that no matter how much money a wage is given, no matter how much somebody's paid hourly or salary, the reality is that there's no such thing as job security. There's no such thing as a safe pension that's going to sustain you. And governments, schools, all of the financial elite know this. we are the only ones being kept in the dark. That is why it's never been taught in schools. That's not why we've never been taught about how to create wealth. I would say find the greatest education that you can regarding, especially by people who have gained true passive residual ongoing long generation lasting income, and then take actions. Don't be afraid of the failures. Eventually you're going to find the light. It's going to happen.
It sounds like some great advice. Thank you very much for the interview. I really appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure.